Rajat here. So in today's video, I want to talk about a critical issue which I think that not many programming channels or programming vlogs or blogs talk about, and that is programmers burnout. So the topic is very real and the burnout in programming industry is real as well. So what do you mean by programmers burnout? So it's a phase in a programmer's life where he does not feel like coding or building stuff or going back to the computer and working on the algorithms and all. So this is a very commonplace problem with a programming community, and a lot of programmers do feel burnt out from time to time, and I think it is better to talk about this issue. So I think there are a couple of reasons or ways that can quickly lead to programming burnout where the programmer does not feel like coding anymore. So the very first reason, according to me, is when you try to tackle on the problems that are way harder for a single individual to tackle. So what do I mean by that? Let's suppose you have heard about that Facebook was created by Mark Zuckerberg. So he was a single person and he developed the entire code base, and then Facebook got very successful, and then after reading this thing you feel very motivated and you try to replicate or create your own social network so as to replicate the success of Facebook. So I think that almost all experienced developers do understand that this is a feat which cannot be achieved, or which is quite impossible to achieve. A single developer cannot churn out an entire replica of Facebook. Even if you feel like doing it, you cannot do it, because that one developer will be going head on with myriads of developers employed by Facebook, and those developers are not your run-of-the-mill developers. Those developers have years of experience and domain knowledge, and they are graduates from Harvard and Stanford and such universities. So it is just not practically possible to create yet another Facebook single-handedly. So if you try to do this thing, I think you are setting yourself up for a failure. So what am I proposing? Am I saying that we should not be ambitious, we should not think about creating big products? I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if you have a vision like that, you first of all try to break that product down into a smaller prototype version which you can code or which you can build on your own. If you have a team at your disposal, then you can ask your team to help you out with that. So you should follow strategies like that, and this thing can actually prevent the burnout. The second reason for programmers burnout, in my opinion, is dumping random algorithms which you certainly do not need into your mind. So like if you go on any programming vlog channel, portal, blog, they will talk about that you have to learn this algorithm, that algorithm, and there are a bunch of algorithms a programmer has to know in order for him to be an employer programmer. So when you do that stuff frantically, you keep on dumping algorithms and you keep on going back to the textbooks like Introduction to Algorithms, and those books are mentally taxing. So you feel like that you are learning a bunch of stuff which you cannot relate to and which you cannot use in your day-to-day programming. So you feel like that, okay, you have learned this much stuff, but you are not using that in your day-to-day life, and you wasted this much time into doing that stuff, and that stuff is actually hard to understand. So no one just pick that Introduction to Algorithm book casually and understand everything that is written there in a first go. It takes a lot of time. But when you devote that time and you still cannot code that algorithm, or you cannot figure out how to convert the pseudo code into the actual code and how to figure out the complexity in your actual code, and you feel like that you are a total loser, I think this thing can burn you out pretty quick. So if you keep on dumping such algorithms randomly without getting any proper idea about in what scenarios you can use them, how can you use them, how can you convert the pseudo code to an actual code, this thing can burn you out, because you are actually learning random stuff and you certainly do not see the requirement of learning such stuff. So try to learn things which you can use in your day-to-day life. And there are a lot of people out there who will tell you stuff, and you certainly do not have to know every single algorithm that is out there. Companies can ask whatever, but it is up to you what you actually need and what you have to know, right? So I think that dumping these random algorithms and preparing frantically for competitive examinations just for the heck of it can burn you out pretty well, and you will end up resenting programming. So what I am suggesting is, please do learn algorithm. They are a fundamental part of a programmer's repertoire, but do not over obsess about knowing each and every single algorithm out there, and do not think about implementing all of them on your own. If you can implement them, that is good, but do not beat yourself up for not implementing every single algorithms that you have ever encountered. The third reason for prospective burnout can be working with tight deadlines. So when you have a project manager that is breathing down on your neck and he wants you to complete a big project in a time frame which is just way too less for completing that project, I think that this thing can burn you out as well. So if you are always working with such a team where the deadlines are always tight, where the management is always forcing you to deliver stuff in a small time frame, this thing can burn you out pretty well, and you will end up resenting going to work and sitting in front of your computer. So always try to tell the managers or the management that this much work cannot be performed in this time frame. So you have to be very transparent with the team that this is the time frame that is required to code this much of the product, and there is no way you can deliver this product faster than this time frame. Okay, so you have to be very transparent here if you do not want to get burned out. The fourth reason is, I think, it's a modern thing. So a fourth way you can get burnt out is being on social media or being on the internet way too much. So if you are interested in programming, you might have discovered various programming communities. Like there are programming communities and channels on YouTube, then there are programming communities on Reddit, then we have got medium.com's programming community, and also there are a bunch of programming communities out there. And if you have been a part of many such communities, you will get to see people talking about random frameworks, JavaScript libraries, algorithms, and best practices and all. And the more you read about it, the more you think that you know nothing, and you need to know every single thing that is out there and that is being used by other industry professionals. I have fallen a prey to it, and you can always chase the tech bling, but you will never be the master at everything. So you have to pick and choose properly and carefully. So just do not fall prey to these shiny taglines or articles that this is the most famous JavaScript framework. Every single JavaScript programmer has to know. So see, these people who are putting out content want eyeballs, and they get eyeballs when they do clickbaity titles or stuff like this. But you have to have the mental ability to understand what is real stuff and what is just there for getting eyeballs and what is clickbait. So you certainly do not have to understand every single JavaScript framework out there. You have to pick and choose. You have to figure out what works best for you. Always take everything you read online with a grain of salt. So if I tell you that React is the best JavaScript framework, you do not really have to believe me. Even if you like the kind of content I am putting out there, you have to do your own research, because when you join such communities, there are 100 of people trying to get their point across, and they are certainly looking for feedback, but you certainly do not have to give feedback or eyeball to every single content that is being put online. So do your research and do not rush to things. Like if somebody talks about this JavaScript framework, you go right into it and start learning it. And if somebody talks about that this is the best algorithm you have to know in order to get placed in Google, then you frantically run to that algorithm and start learning about the pseudocode of that algorithm. So always be on your track, and please do not get distracted, because internet is a huge place and there are a million of people putting up content on a day-to-day basis, and a single developer or a programmer cannot know every single thing that is out there. So people do clickbaity stuff that this is the algorithm you have to learn in order to get into Google, this is the framework you need to know in order to get into Facebook and things like that. But you certainly have to use your own brain in order to understand what you need to do. And when you can do that, you can keep this programmer's burnout at bay. Because if you are going to fall for every single article, and if you think about learning every single thing, you will feel that you are learning all of this stuff and you are getting nowhere. And you can take my word for it, because I have tried that and I have failed miserably. If you go over to my GitHub channel, you will see that I have tried to master PHP, Python, JavaScript and every single thing at the very same time, because I was reading way too much about this is the language you should know, this is the framework you should know in order to be a good programmer and things like that. So I was trying to master these many technologies at once, all thanks to these random articles on internet. So you have to drill down or double down on things you really need to know, and then learn those things and then deliver something using those technologies, so those things can actually give you confidence. Okay, so I think by now you might have got some idea about what is programmers burnout and how you can keep this burnout thing at bay and deliver products. So in case you have any more doubts regarding this subject matter, do not shy away from leaving a comment. I will try to address your queries. In case you are new here, we talk about software development and building stuff from the scratch on this channel. So consider subscribing. And if you like the content, do not forget to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends who are programmers. Thank you. Bye bye.